Welcome to another edition of Tom's Real Food Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Tommy Spice. Salt, pepper, garlic, and onion, all granulated, all equal parts. Let's go to the podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back. I am Tom Garvey, the Keto Cook. Today on Tom's Real Food Podcast, I have a special guest that I'm going to bring up. Her name is Laura Russell, and she's from Healthy Carnivore. Great channel. And Laura's been doing this a long time, so I'm kind of excited to have her here. So what I want to do is I'd like to bring her up right now. There she is. Hello, Laura. How you doing?
Hello. Great.
Good. We are going to be talking about carnivore, also keto, and Laura's been a long time advocate for it and lived the life. Right? How long you been doing carnivore now and keto?
So I started keto in 1991. So
Wow.
I did it 28 years. And then 6 years ago, I switched to carnivore. And I'll go over the reasons I feel like I had to switch to that. And it's pretty eye opening. But a lot of people that are watching this are going to be kind of knowledgeable in the stuff that goes on in our food industry. So there's a lot of reason behind it.
Yeah, and my I guess my whole idea with the podcast is to wake people up a little bit about what's going
Yeah.
on and what we're eating. I mean, we are sugar
Sure.
addicted, and it's
Oh, yeah.
ridiculous. It is completely
Absolutely.
nuts. So, how about give me a little background if you don't mind,
Sure.
and how you got started and stuff.
Sure. So, I'm a registered nurse. I do home health nursing. I've done every type of nursing there is, open heart, cardiac cath lab, nursing home, clinic, ER, the gamut. I've done it all, which I loved every bit of all of those. Nursing home's probably my favorite, though. I really love the elderly. But when I was 20, I was 313 pounds. Went to my doctor, and he was a regular GP. He was about 2 years out of school. Had my blood work done. My triglycerides were at least 1,000. That's as high as their meter went. They didn't do hemoglobin A1C back in 91. But he did tell me next year you will be diabetic. Now, I was not a nurse until I was 30. So at this point, he's talking to me about sticking myself 4 times a day. And I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that. And I enjoy poking other people to this day, but I do not like to poke myself. And I'm a good poker. So just to throw that out there. So, of course, Lipitor, one of the statins to lower your cholesterol, that first came out in 1987. And so this was in 91. And he was like, wrote out the script, handed me the script, sent me on my way. And I'm just like, as I'm walking down the long corridor of that hospital to get to my parking lot, I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. I don't want to live out of a bottle. Like, I thought of it like an antibiotic, but when I asked him, he said, no, forever. And I'm like, nah. So
Yeah.
I went up to the library that we had, because this is before the internet, and I read every old medical journal I could find starting around 1850 up to about 1910, because I already knew that
Uh,
in 1910 kind of our medical system had gotten hijacked by the Carnegies and Rockefellers and people like that. So because my mom's very holistic, so I remember her talking about that. So I read those journals, and I am not kidding you, every one of them was like, what you eat. And it didn't say sugar, it said sugar cane, because that's what sugar was called back then.
mhm.
Saying how it leads to inflammation, which leads to metabolic disease. And they knew this in 1850, which is just maddening, you know. But so I went home. I did this for weeks. I went up every night after work and read these journals and just took photocopies of everything. I spent $100 just making copies, but I wanted that knowledge. And then I went home and I had a great big like food pantry, and it had box macaroni. It had, your hamburger helper type things, it had all the junk the easy stuff. And I took it all out, all the white bread, potatoes, pasta, rice, sugar, everything. And I took it to the food pantry. Now, if I had to do it again today, it'd go in the trash. I
Yep.
wouldn't even do it, because I don't want to injure other people. It's against my heart. And so I did that, and I didn't even exercise. I couldn't even walk from like my front door probably 30 yards to the mailbox without just getting winded. And I'm
Wow.
also an asthmatic. I was born with asthma. So after 9 months, he wanted me to come back and do blood work. So I did it. And of course, back then you didn't get to see what your results were till you went to the doctor.
Yeah.
So I went back to see him, and he does this. He literally slaps himself on the back when he walks in the room. And he was very arrogant to begin with, which does not, I don't do well with most arrogance at all. But I, he says, I told you Lipitor would work. And I said, no. I said, I changed what I put in my mouth, what I feed my body with. And I'm a gearhead. Like I used to rebuild motors all the time. And I said, I have a 68 327 out of a 68 Corvette that I rebuilt and put it into a 77 Camaro at that time. And I'm like, I have to run turbo blue because I want the highest octane gas that I can so it runs the best. And I said, to me, should be the same thing for us. I said, if I take my cat to the vet and he's sick, the very first thing out of that vet's mouth is, what are you feeding him?
Right.
And I said, you have never cared about that. Yeah, and it was, the only thing he did say is he wanted me to only eat chicken breast. This was the 9 months before. Chicken breast, country crock, no eggs, water, and that was basically it. And he
Wow.
said Doritos are perfectly healthy. They're enriched. Yeah. And but I kind of knew at that point. So when I went back at the 9 months, he's slapping himself on the back and I'm just like, I was so mad, so mad. And I said, well, I didn't fill your script, and I handed it back to him. And he goes, well, you're going to die a fat ass. Now, mind you, I was 150 pounds and I'm 5'6". And I said, I'm going to lose 300 pounds today. And he just kind of looked at me and I said, you're fired. I
There you
said,
go.
shame on you. You should have known how my body worked better than I had to go out and learn how to do it. So that's kind of where that journey started. And then I, I'm very much about a root cause. I want to know, what's the root cause of this? What's the root cause of that? Let's get down to the nitty gritty and see, what it is. And I was never brought up really religious, but my grandmother always spoke about, you eat what God gave you, what
Hmm.
he created, and as we have seen with everything else, man thinks that we can come in and do something better than that, and it ends up we screw it up.
Right.
I mean, every time we try to do something. So working at a food factory at one point, I knew what was allowed to be in our food, and it was appalling. I couldn't believe, you're better off to eat Alpo out of the can than you are to eat Dinty Moore stew, because it really is true. It's less contaminants that are allowed to be in animal feed,
Sure.
especially horses. Yeah,
Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame how I had a person tell me the other day that, well, you're killing yourself with cholesterol. And so what I got to do is I'm sort of a hothead with things. Okay, I'm a retired chef. All right, so I know a little bit better about it, and I feel like part of the blame because of what I was feeding people. You know what I'm saying?
sure.
But when people talk to me that way with a little bit of ignorance about what's going on, hey, I lost 72 pounds. Okay, I had bladder cancer, and they had to stop
Wow.
they had to stop my treatment because I
Mm,
developed type 2 diabetes from
sure,
the, the the treatment they were giving me. Let's put it that way.
sure. Yep,
And
yep.
this started my journey. Okay, went to an endocrinologist. Okay, then he sent me to a dietitian. Okay, the dietitian should have been smacked. Okay, for what they tried to give me.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, well, now I started doing research into it and looking back into it. And I came across a guy, I can't remember his name, but his daughter took over his practice. And this guy was basically, was, I think, murdered. Let's put it that way. He was a scientist, but especially for bladder cancer, he come up with this process as far as carrot juice.
Sure,
Okay. Well, I started doing that. I mean, I went down every rabbit hole there was until finally I said, "This is not
sure.
working. Something's
Yeah,
wrong." Okay, and then I got into it. I'm saying, "Holy crap, we're killing ourselves. We are virtually killing us." They had to stop my treatment because of my. I went from 90. There's like the highest of my blood sugar up to
sure.
250, 258. And the doctor came in.
Ooh,
The doctor was from the East Coast. I get along with him because I'm from the East Coast. Got along great with him. I'm in North Carolina, out in the middle of
Right.
nowhere. All right. We had a
Yeah.
little organic farm we were doing and everything, we're just going through all this. And that rocked my world because he came in and said to me, I can't give you the treatment no more. Okay. Because you're type 2. All right. There is no pre diabetic. There's no, you're a type 2 diabetic and that case closed. Okay.
Yeah.
And keto and stuff, it wasn't even developed by that time. It was developed, but it
Sure.
was through Atkins. Okay,
Hmm.
basically Atkins protocol, whatever. And he just told me to get my affairs in order.
Oh, that's not a
That
good
didn't
day.
that didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
what I did was I started, like I said, started doing research, and that's when I discovered, uh, low carb, less sugar, the whole bit. And I tripped and fell through it until this day, But I see the results and I know what's going on. So I appreciate listening to you. I watch a couple of your videos and stuff like that, and just you've reminded me of my journey of how it worked,
Yeah.
but on a different scope. You know what I mean? Firing a doctor and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
I
This
mean,
thing.
I told one doctor, I said, you know what? I think it's time me and you part ways here because you're a freaking raving lunatic. Okay, you can't
Yeah.
conform to this way of doing things. And
So, have you ever seen the video where I talk about my keto journey and with that doctor?
yeah, yeah, that that
'Cause
that's when I said I got to get a hold of her because what
'cause
goes around
that's
comes around.
karma. That's right. Best day ever. And as a nurse, I never want to see somebody sick, but I am not kidding you. At the University of Iowa, having this name come across and I was like, "Oh, there can only be one of those, he's got such a unique name." Um,
Explain
and
that.
I was like, "Oh,
Go
wow."
through that a little bit. Go through that a little bit with us real
Yeah,
quick.
so I gave up all the sugar, lost all that weight in 1991. I went to nursing school and for LPN, licensed practical nursing, in 2001. And then in 2007, I went on for my RN. I had worked out in the
Mhm.
field, saved up money, and then paid for my schooling. So nobody's got to pay off my student loans. I paid all of mine, and I didn't do student loans. And I also didn't fill out FAFSA. I told them to stick that right where they wanted,
Yeah, exactly.
because you don't have to. If you're paying cash, it's none of your business. So, but anyway, up at there, I was at my last part of the clinical, and I love cardiology because I had a father who died at 42 of massive heart attack, and then all of my cousins were gone by the time they were 39 or 40.
Wow.
And so I'm like, I need to know how this works. So, but anyway, his name comes across, and I looked at my instructor and I was like, he may not want me. I fired him. And she says, well, how long ago? And I said, 1991. She goes, he ain't gonna remember you. So of course I go in the room and we had to ask him if it was okay if I was his nurse because, I had fired him, previously. He was still intubated, but he was awake. So, he wrote out on a board, I don't remember you, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. So the next day I extubated him, took his chest tubes and his pacemaker wires and stuff out and his catheter. And I did deflate the balloon, but I did think about it. Anyway,
I know that personally.
yes. So, but I was like, oh, you have the devil and you have the angel, and it's like, who's going to win? But the angel won. So, but then I looked at him and I said, you just had a five-way bypass. And he's like, and he shakes his head. And I'm like, how long have you been taking a statin? Your cholesterol's 120. And he's like, well, 87, 88. And I was like, okay, and you're eating country crock like you told me to. You're not eating eggs. You're eating chicken breast. And there was one other meat that he ate that was really, I don't even remember, I think turkey. And I said, and yet here you are with almost, you've taken in no animal fats, which are so dangerous and going to cause heart disease and stroke. And here you are. We just bypassed five of your arteries. And I said, do you know what your blockages were made of? And he's like, yeah, they're cholesterol. And I said, no, they're not. I said, let's just use some common sense.
Yeah,
You take a slab of butter in this hand and country crock in this hand, and which one melts? The butter.
exactly.
Absolutely. And I said, I go, I've been in open heart. I said, it when you see the lesion, if it happens to come out, because sometimes when you cut the artery, sometimes it'll push out. It looks like school board chalk. It is hard as a rock because it is mostly the same minerals that go in to make our bones. And
Okay.
so I educated him on that. I educated him on, why the body needs cholesterol. And he was like, so he took it, but he couldn't argue because he had a sore throat from, being intubated. So he took it down. But then I didn't have him after that. And then my mom sees a doctor next door to his office in the town I grew up in. And about 2.5 years later, he, said, "Hey, Connie, can I have Laura's phone number?" And she's like, "I'll give her your phone number." And
Yeah, exactly.
so I waited yeah, so I waited about 2 months and I gave him a call and he was like, "Oh, I thought you forgot me." And I said, "No." I said, I'm an eye for an eye kind of girl. And I would always do 8 o'clock appointments with you and you'd show up at 9:10. And I was the first appointment of the day. So I just let you wait for a little while.
Yeah.
And he was like, I deserve that. And I'm like, yes, you do.
Yeah.
And he just said, well, your mom talked about keto, that you did keto and that's what you did to get, healthier. And I said, and you're going to have to throw that statin away. And so he threw the statin away. He was up to 500 pounds. And I think he's right around 195 now. So
Wow.
he did it. But you know what? The sad thing is, he gave up the statin, he threw it away that day, but I asked him, I said, "Do you still prescribe it?" And he says, "I have to, the standard of care at the facility I work says I have to." And I was like,
You
sad.
know, I don't know if you notice it, or I'm sure you do, being your profession. Um, there is no more family doctors. There's no more private
Very
doctors.
few.
Okay, everything is
Yep,
big business, and
yep,
I just found this the other day. Now I went from 14 medications, and I'm down to three. Living
awesome.
living this lifestyle. Okay, and I call it a lifestyle because
Yeah,
that's exactly what
it
it
is.
is. I have to switch my
Yep,
mindset on everything. And when people talk to me about it, oh, you're nuts. You're crazy. Okay. You know what I
we'll see.
mean? Whatever, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
the doctor I had here, and I moved from, I lived in New Jersey, we were born and raised in New Jersey. It's where restaurants and stuff were. Then we moved to North Carolina. I was going to early retire, okay, kick back and just lived a simple life at 17 acres of
sure.
property. We're going to, my wife could grow. The only thing she can't grow is a $50 bill. That's the only thing that she
Dang
can't
it.
put in the ground. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Wouldn't that
So
be nice?
exactly. And then that's when I
Yeah,
discovered I had bladder cancer, and I went through it. And I'm glad I went through it there because um, just the way the doctor was and stuff like
sure.
that. But then I started running into problems with insurances and stuff. So
Oh, yeah,
long story short was we went to Florida. Now in Florida, you talked about your triglycerides. Okay,
yeah,
my my primary care said to me, Tom, your triglycerides are 1,686.
yep,
I says, and what are they supposed to be? She said, no more than 150.
yeah,
So I said, well, we got to put you on this. We got to put you on it. So I went through the gamut. I went through taking the pills, scared the hell out of you. Okay.
yep,
That's when I started doing keto really hard. Like your story, I took the pills for a little bit, bothered my stomach. Okay. And I stopped taking them.
mhm,
So when I went back in 90 days, I lost some weight, the whole bit, and did the blood work and it was starting to come down. Well, I got them down to
great.
230.
Yeah,
And this is a couple things into this. Uh, got it down to 230, like maybe a year into it. Okay. But not from the pills,
mhm,
just from doing what I was
no,
doing.
yep,
And they said, when she said to me, she says, Tom, I got to tell you, she says, you're to talk at all our cocktail parties about how high your triglycerides are. Okay. And how you took this Genfibrocil, I think it was called.
oh, yeah, yep,
Okay.
Gem Brazil.
So she said, and that worked. I said, I stopped taking them, just like your story. And she was like, wow.
Yeah,
So they send me to a cardiologist. Okay. Well, you're at the age now, you're 50 something years old, whatever. And you're at that age where we got to check you out for blockages and stuff like that. So they did
right.
three heart caths, three of them.
Why 3?
One in my leg first. Okay, didn't spot nothing. So they said, "Nah, we got to give you another stress test. There's something hidden." And he did it in my arm.
Mm,
Okay,
right.
and then the last one they did, he can hear the doctor talking. I'm awake. I don't feel anything. It feels a little
Sure.
funky inside your system.
Right.
And he says, "Well, Tom," he says, "I'm going to put one in." He said, small. One of the smallest stents we can find. I'm going to put into you because for preventative."
Oh, that's illegal.
I
That's
said,
not legal.
"Really?"
That's
And I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, you're like 36, 37%." And
got to be 70.
yeah. So now here's the kicker, Laura. Here's the thing that burns my butt like you wouldn't believe.
Mm,
I'm on now Eliquis.
yep.
They told me for 6 months. You'll be on it for 6 months and you get off it. Well, that was back in 2015. I'm
Oh,
still
I'd
on it,
be off of it.
and the prices just or
It's
can't do this,
stupid.
can't do that. So the long story short is that they could they didn't find anything. All right.
Mhm.
And they determined that my triglycerides were hereditary. I don't know how that works or
That's not
whatever.
true. That's a
Yeah.
lie.
See? And so then all this different medications and stuff was on. Now I move out to Las Vegas. I live out in Las Vegas and I'm in this corporate doctors now. So I go to get everything checked, go to get my bladder checked, the whole bit, everything was clear with that. And I
Mhm.
said to him, never clear. Oh, no, no. Yeah, we don't see anything. We don't see anything to making in your blood and stuff like that. I said, I think that cancer's always floating around. And yet, anyway,
Yeah.
that's my, you
Yep.
know, my
Always. You
my
have
way
dorm
of
cells.
my way of thinking. Then I go to see uh, the cardiologist out here. Okay, so they said we're going to bring in the cardiologist or the his intern or whatever, not an intern, but
Mhm.
his PA, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
Who do you want to see? I said I want to see the PA. I don't want to see the cardiologist. Okay.
Yep.
So younger guy come in and we went back and forth with these pills. So now from that time, okay, they were talking about AFib and all this other crap. And I said to him, I said, not for nothing. I said, but all this other medications you got me on is crazy. I don't want to be taking this
Mhm.
stuff. So that's when. So here's where I come into play with what you were saying. Now I'm pretty hardcore keto as far as I clean keto. Let's put it that way. I don't do
Right.
nothing from a box, no cans. Everything's fresh cut meat.
Smart.
I butcher up all my stuff. But every once in a while, when I see my numbers, my blood sugar numbers going a little crazy, okay, for no odd reason, I don't know why they would do that, you know, I'll go carnivore. I'll do carnivore for two,
Yeah.
3 weeks, okay, settle everything back down again and just start introducing stuff. And I don't eat crazy vegetables or anything like that. It's just a little
Right.
different. Go back to the doctor, and now they start taking me off these medications.
Mhm.
I demanded it because I said, "Do I
Yep.
need this anymore?" Well, no, because your blood levels are
Mhm.
here. Then I got in the argument. Here's where we parted ways with the doctors.
Yeah.
Why are you testing me, okay, to a standard that I'm not eating?
Yes.
I am not eating the standard American diet. I am eating a high fat, zero sugar, low carb.
Yep.
Why are you? That's like me bringing an electric car into a gas station, look where to fill it up at. It's not going to work.
Absolutely.
It's not going to work. So that's my argument with them right now. So
Yeah.
one of the pills I'm on right now is and I don't want to turn this into my thing. I have you on
Yeah.
here to
It's
talk
okay. It's okay.
to. Linsinopril, okay, for blood pressure.
Yep.
All right. Well, you got to take it. Oh, that's one you can't get off. You have got to take that. Okay. Well, I need my prescription ran out. Guess what? Doctor refused to fill them until I go back to the doctor to see the doctor.
Okay.
I ain't got nothing
C'est
wrong
la
with me.
vie.
I'm not,
Exactly.
I'm not going back. I'm just not going back.
Yeah.
And when I get into the argument with them about what I'm eating, I gave the doctor one of my stickers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Put that on your refrigerator. Okay. I leave it on the scale. They hate me when I go to the doctor. I'll have this,
Yeah.
take this. No, I don't want nobody getting mad at me, but I speak the truth. This little
Yeah.
chubby woman takes me down, walks me 40, 50 feet down to get on the scale. And I
Yeah.
said, looked at her and I said, I'm a gentleman. You first. And
Ah!
she looks at me. And then same thing with the blood pressure. I said, "You waltzing me up and down these hallways, sit me down, take my blood pressure." Go, "Oh my God, your blood pressure's high."
Well,
Now I
yeah,
said,
you just walk down. Yeah.
"Yeah." So I try to explain to him about the food, what we're eating, what we're putting in our bodies, get away from the sugar and stuff like that. And it sounds like I'm preaching, but you know what? I'm going to do it more because it's the truth, and nobody's really
It
speaking out
is.
about it. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's horrible. It really is horrible.
It is true. So, back to what you were talking about. I did clean keto, as you're talking about, for the first 26 out of 28 years that I did keto. And then Quest bars and all these keto treats came out. When I started doing that, it wrecked my gut, probably because of all of the fake sugars, is what I'm guessing. The maltodextrin, the food starch and all this stuff that was in there, guar gum and all the other stuff to make it thick. That's kind of what ruined my gut. And then I developed cystic acne all around here. I mean, horrible acne. Um, I'm OCD just by my nature because I like order. But it was really bad to the point, yeah, but I was really bad to where, like, I'd get up at 2 in the morning and shampoo the carpets, like, they need shampooed, and, which no carpets need shampooed at 2 o'clock in the morning, so but that's where I was at, but I had anxiety and depression as well, and then was developing joint pain,
Mm.
and I knew I was lactose intolerant, but I was chugging away and saying, "I'm still gonna do the cheese because 'cause I'm pig-headed," and, finally, I did a week of just clean. I basically did elimination diet and did what you would call carnivore, and everything cleared up. My sinuses cleared up. Now, the anxiety, depression didn't go away, but it was definitely better in that week's time. The OCD was a little bit less. Joint pain was gone. My knees, my hands, gone. And my brain was like, boom. It was like somebody had switched the lights on. I just couldn't believe it. And I thought, I'm pretty sharp anyway. And I shoot from the hip. Like, I don't let anything run through the filter first. It just usually comes out. But it was even worse, which my husband was like, I don't know if we want it to be worse,
That's
but
funny.
it was. Yeah.
That's
And so I did that and then I went back to adding a few things like broccoli. So I had the keto mojo and I could do my blood sugar or ketones.
hmm
And my ketones could get very high. I mean, I got 5.8, before during a
Wow.
long, long fast. And but I ate a head of broccoli out of our garden. We have a massive garden, and I just lightly, like, steamed it and put Kerrygold butter on it, and my blood sugar went up almost 300 points. And then I was like, "What the heck?" I haven't. Well, what I have now realized is that when you are insulin resistant, which most of us are,
hmm
until you get that fixed, even vegetable carbs, good carbs, are going to still
Affect you.
mess with your blood sugar. Yeah.
Mm.
And so you doing that carnivore sometimes like that,
Mhm.
that does help that because that kind of gets those numbers back down. But and the sad thing is I had a nutritionist kind of like you're talking about your nurse that when I was right before I had seen the doctor the first time, she looked like a Rubik's cube with legs. I mean, she was 300 pounds, 5 foot maybe, with a big slam or a big gulp Mountain Dew
There
back
you
in
go.
the, 90. And it took her 15 minutes to catch her breath walking into my room to give me advice on eating it. And at 20, I was like, click, I don't hear a damn thing you say. Um, and I guess that's the thing. I've had to educate a lot of doctors, and I'm not shy to do it because I'm trained. And I always tell my patients and clients that I work with on my website, you know, you do you have to know your own body because doctors are practicing medicine just the way
Yeah.
it is. They're trained at medical schools that are bought and paid for by big pharmaceutical companies, so that's all they're going to ever be taught, and they're never taught how to prescribe ever. So
Yeah.
that is something that falls back on the clinical nurse at the time. Usually, and sometimes PAs and nurse practitioners know it too, but they're just not taught that. And so it is always add, add, add. And being a nurse, especially in home health, I can go in a home and I'll see a person that's on 3 or 4 blood pressure medicines to lower their blood pressure and another bottle of pills that is to keep your blood pressure elevated,
Mhm.
and they're taking them all. And I'm like, "What the?" And I have no like, I called the doctor right from that person's house. This lady was 97 at the time. She's 98 now. She'll be 99 in June.
Wow.
And, I just said to him, and he's a horse's, yeah.
Gotcha.
And, I just said, "Which medications are you gonna stop on this patient?" And he goes, "Well, I'm not." And so I told him what they were and why I said, This makes no sense, and we wonder why her kidneys are going to hell in a handbasket." And he goes, "Well, she's 97." And I go, "She also grew up on a farm and has eaten only pretty much the meat, milk, and vegetables that they grew her whole life and been
Right.
out in the sun constantly and out in the dirt, grounding." And I said, "So you're not gonna stop any?" And he goes, "Nope." And I said, "Well, this is what I'm gonna tell you. Her family is all sitting here, all of her children, and they're gonna stop every single thing unless you can come up with one that they need to stay on." And he goes, "Well," he goes, "I just don't think that's safe." And I said, "Well, she's 97, so this is what she wants to do." So I said, "I'll just when I'm done getting her admitted, I'll send what medication she is gonna stay on, and I'll send it to you." And so I sent it, and she threw away the cholesterol medicine. She'd only been on it 6 months, thank
Right.
God. Threw away all 3 of the hypertensives and then or antihypertensive, and then the other one that helps bring blood pressure up. So she takes, vitamin K2D3. She takes iodine
Hmm.
drops and puts them in her coffee, and she uses Redmond salt,
There you
and
go.
that's what she's done, and
Yeah.
she's been
I
great.
took back in my 40s. I just turned 70 this past year. I'll be 71 in October. I ain't giving up. I'm not. I don't. They can take a walk as far as I'm concerned. I feel pretty good. Uh, you know,
Yeah,
I'm sure there'll be issues that'll come up in this and that, and I'll deal with that down the road.
sure,
You know what I mean?
right.
But back in the day when they first put me on cholesterol medication, okay, they're saying to me, "Well, cholesterol's very high, your fat content's very high." I said, "I cook. That's what I do." Okay, in a
Yeah,
restaurant, I eat butter. I
sure.
taste everything. Okay,
Mhm.
and if that's the case, then that's what it is. So they put me on Vytorin. Okay,
Oh boy, bad stuff, bad
yeah.
stuff.
So, but I took it for a year. Okay, but every morning when I took it with a glass of grapefruit juice.
Oh, there you go.
So I didn't know.
Smart.
Nobody said. I didn't even know at the time. I had no idea.
It blocked it.
Yeah. So I took it for a year, and the doctor just threw his arms up and said, "You're completely nuts." The thing that bothers me, and like I said, you know, I do what I do. My channel, I try to cook as clean as possible. Okay, and I show you exactly how I make it. I don't preach. Here's what I'm
Yeah,
doing today. I'm making. I just got done doing a ribeye, some shrimp. Uh,
yum.
with some butter and olive oil. That's my trinity: garlic,
Yeah,
olive oil, and butter. That's what I cook with everything.
yep,
Okay,
yeah.
and I don't try not to preach, but I see a pattern with people. Okay, that start out and they run out of things to do to make on their channel. So the next thing you know, they start introducing these shakes, these bars, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And Laura, I call them out, not call them out to be mean or anything like that, but I call that out
Right.
as junk.
Yep, and it
It's
is.
it's processed, okay. I
It
had
is.
one couple people just boom. I'm not subscribing to you because I don't think what you're saying is right. I'm telling you,
Okay.
for me, I told the person, from me, it does not work for me, and you're hurting yourself. Down the road, you're going to have problems.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
there
will.
again, we're not doctors, right? We're not scientists.
Yep,
Although back in the '70s, I thought I was a scientist, but
me too.
uh, yeah. So, but trying to keep my whole channel on the up and up with what I'm doing, and I don't want to tell nobody no false information and stuff like that.
Sure.
So you got to eat. You got to eat meat. You got to eat. You got to
Yep.
have butter. You got to have everything that's natural. The big fight that I have with some people is got to have grass fed. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You do not have to have grass fed. We're accustomed to that. And when somebody starts telling me, well, back millions of years ago, we were carnivores and that's how we ate and
Mhm.
they lived off the land. I said, that was then, not now. It's not the same
Yeah,
thing now.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
And then another thing came my way as far as an argument was, well, you can have hot dogs or bologna. No.
Yeah,
Here's my bitch with that is the ingredients that are in it. Okay. There's in my eyes, there's close to 200 different names for sugar.
absolutely. There is.
Okay. So you can manipulate anything you want every time they make a batch of bologna or hot dogs. And then again, if you buy uncured like Thumans or
Right.
what's the other one? I can't think of the other name of it.
Nathan's.
Nathan's or the one that just
Right.
get salmonella and stuff. Higher
Yeah,
grade, they're higher grade, but they still have the same ingredients that's shelf stable. It's not good,
absolutely.
really not good.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
people say, "Well, I just can't afford it." Well,
not true.
well, okay. If you do your um, fasting naturally,
Yes.
you don't have to worry about it. One meal a day,
Right.
eat
That's
till
it.
you're full. Eat till you're full. Cut it off at a certain time. And the whole
Yep.
idea is here's my whole play on my channel is kill the cravings.
Yes.
End of
Because that
story.
food noise, that's right. That food noise will get you.
Exactly. And that's how I go with it. So if people are, oh, you're full of crap or whatever, or they just don't want to hear what I have to say. And that's fine. I'm
Yeah.
good with that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't really
Well,
care.
I think as Americans, we've gotten used to, especially in the 70s, I was born in 71, but I remember the commercials, you are what you eat, da da da. I mean, and we knew that then, but now all of a sudden it's like, oh, but it's okay to eat man-made food, and I call it Franken food because it's not food. I worked in a food factory. Um, but if something is shelf stable, so I did a experiment. Like I said, I like to see root cause. So I took a loaf of white Wonder Bread back in 1990.
Helps build
I
bodies
opened
12
it up.
ways.
Yeah. I left the bag open. I put it on the windowsill in the kitchen, direct sunlight hitting it. I did that for 6 months. Do you think there was one spot of mold? Do you know that yes, the end that was open was hard, but as you got further down into the loaf, just as soft as a marshmallow. And I thought, like I said, I'm a car person, so oxidized paint, da da da. And I was like, if the sun coming through the glass, coming through crappy plastic, can't oxidize and break this down, what the hell inside of you do you think can break it down? And if it can't break it down, where the hell's it go? So
Yeah.
that's where I educate people on this stuff gets sent out into your fat cells and sits out there, which is another thing that like when I was really doing keto, I never had gallbladder attack or stones. I had stones and sludge, but I did enough fat that it finally came back, got rid of those and had my gallbladder work again. But I would work with people and I just tell them, you know, what you put in your mouth is absolutely what you are made up of. And we need fatty acids and amino acids. We do not have to have carbohydrates,
Yeah.
I explain it as like my husband can eat vegetables, they don't bother him. Vegetables have always, even as a kid, they caused me constipation. I had stomach aches. So I've always just been like, if you don't like me, I don't like you, and I don't,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
And I would always have to put tons of dressing or something on it to make it edible. Well, screw that. I don't want to waste my time doing that. So I would just, tell people like yourself, you know, try to eat as clean as possible, try to eat the meat knowing where it's from. But as for red meat, I could care less if you're feeding it corn from the day it's born to the day it gets put down because it's a ruminant animal. So it breaks down all of those impurities and all the crap and it doesn't end up in their meat. Now, with chicken, turkey, and pork, that isn't the case. I
Hmm.
won't eat those because there is no guarantee because what they eat does go directly into them. So
Right.
you could ingest those things. So yeah, that whole adage of you've got to do this and got to do that. And I'm not a keto policeman or carnivore
Yeah.
policeman. I've had people that reached out to work with me on my website that were like vegan, vegetarian, or keto, And they're like, "Well, you're carnivore." And I was like, "Yeah, I am, but that doesn't mean you have to be."
Right.
I'm like, "If you can stay clean, you're probably fine. If you're super insulin resistant, you may have to do that for a time until you can get the body healing and get rid of all that inflammatory issues going on. And then once your body heals, absolutely. And even in 6 years' time, there will be times where I like make our own salsa and I'll try some of that and when you fast, as you know, you learn to listen to your body's
Hmm.
cues, you know yourself. So I watch, like, I'll try that and I'll be like, okay, next morning I wake up and I'm like, oh boy, joints hurting. It's like, okay, I have histamine issues.
Yeah. See, I'm
So
I'm a drummer. Okay. Uh,
mm,
played in the band out here in Vegas. Okay, and we get done playing at night, 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. We would go into they had the restaurant there, and I was like the odd one out. All right, everybody's having burgers
mm,
and fries, and that's when the little kid in me comes out and says, "Why can't I have it?" Okay.
I know.
Well, you dumbass. Guess what? You can have it, okay, but you're going to suffer.
Sure.
And what happened was I blew my knee out.
Oh, yeah.
Going to stand up on stage, okay, boom, down I went. All right. Come to find out, I had the doctor. I had to go see the doctor. Right, first thing they said, knee replacement.
Yep.
I went and seen a surgeon. I said, look, I'm not really up to this, get my knee replaced or anything else like that. I said, I know what the problem is. All right. He said, well, he said, you know what? He says, you have hardware in your leg. I broke my leg in North Carolina. He said,
Mhm.
and you're not walking right. So I don't think a knee replacement is going to work. Let's give you a shot
Oh,
and you do you. I looked at him.
mm,
I shook his hand. I said, thank you so
wow.
much. And
Yeah.
I went back hardcore carnivore. Okay.
Yeah.
3 months later, just walk around, no cane, no nothing. So
Yeah.
it does work. I'm living proof. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, as soon as
Mm,
I eat something that's off kilter a little bit, I can try that a little bit,
yeah.
I start hurting again. And that's what I try to explain to people. It's a lifestyle change. Okay. Most
Yes,
people,
it's not a diet.
yeah, most people succumb to poor me. Okay. I've been doing this,
Yeah.
and I had one person said, I hit a stall. No matter what I do, I can't lose weight. I said, oh, time out. Let me explain to you. I said, that happened to me also. I said, but you know
Yeah.
what? I wear suspenders now because I'm not going to go out and buy clothes. My pants fall off.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I'm losing inches, and
Sure.
your body. I think your body seeks its own level.
Redistributes.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So trying to get that across to people about it, and but sooner or later, Laura, sooner or later, I had all the naysayers that started out with me when I first started my channel. Secretly, now they send me emails. Hey, what can I do to do this? What can I do? I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
a teacher. Okay, I'm just living proof that
Yeah.
this thing works. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, the longer it's, 28 years is a long time to be keto. So, um, I had probably 20 years into it, I started thinking, okay, if the alphabet agencies are lying about our food, which they are, and they have been, um, then what are they lying about in our body care products? And, I did a video several years ago on the FDA, and I just said, it doesn't even make sense that those two entities are in the same thing. Because I said the food part of the FDA gets to determine what's safe for human consumption, and then you get the metabolic disease, and then the drug part of the FDA says, "Oh yeah, we can come in here and we got medicine for the metabolic disease you got that the FDA approved you to eat that food," which is like Monsanto. So Monsanto was bought by Bayer.
Hmm.
Monsanto, got sued, and which was a drop in a bucket compared to what they made off of Roundup, which causes leukemia and lymphoma. Well, Bayer bought Monsanto, and guess what new medication they have? A cancer medication from Bayer that treats leukemia and lymphoma.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow. Boy, how the hell
how
that
does that
happen?
happen?
Yeah. How the hell did that happen?
I'm like, conflict of interest.
Yeah, exactly. We definitely need a change. It's got to come somehow, somewhere quicker than normal.
Yeah,
If people can't see the handwriting on the wall, just stop and think. Now, when I grew up, all right,
yeah,
Saturday morning, alphabets, post alphabets in front of the TV,
yep.
watching Rin Tin
Mhm.
Tin or whatever cartoons, getting sugar,
Sure.
and I can remember drinking the milk that had the sugar in it, and I didn't
Absolutely.
like it. I didn't like it, but you know what? My mother,
No,
we paid a lot of money for
drink
that
the
milk.
milk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotta drink it down. I mean, so it starts there. The other day, I'm in the shopping. I go to a place that's a half commercial and half, anybody can shop there. So I buy my big things of meat there and stuff like that. I watch a lady with not an infant, but I guess maybe a year old, maybe 2 years old, in a little seat, and broke down a what do you call it? A lollipop. The kid with the
Mhm.
lollipop, and the little kid's eating grapes on top of it.
Oh my.
I told my wife, I said, I got to get away from it. I'm getting a headache from watching
Mhm.
this. So at that little age, and we all did it. I mean, give the
Sure,
kids the sugar and
sure.
stuff like that.
Yeah, keep them quiet.
I blamed it. I blamed the medical field. I blame big pharma, big food, all of it. And we're
I
just in
agree.
we're in that vicious circle that goes around and around and around. And then once you get put where we're at, okay, and then you get the other enablers who are on YouTube who will
Yeah.
fight what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, say we're crazy, we're lunatics. Okay, and then you get the
I co
vegans.
I come with receipts, though. I've got my cardiac calcium score that shows 0 down from 378.
Yeah.
So even doing keto, I had a cardiac calcium score at, like, 48 years old, and, it was 378. Most of that was in what they call the widowmaker, the LAD,
Hmm.
and, but I'm sure it would have been much higher had I been on the standard American diet because of my family,
The history.
but then yes, so I did, because this is what I believe about genetics. Because I have bad genes on both sides of the family. We have Charlet, which is a cow, and we have that in one part of our family, and we've got Porky Pig in the other. I mean, we just are that way. We're just big and very unhealthy. So, I remember reading something, and it wasn't this exactly, but the analogy is, genetics loads the gun, and your lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Bingo.
And
Wow.
I'm living proof. I'm gonna be 54 in 2 months. I never became full-blown diabetic. In fact, now my blood sugar runs in the 50s. I can run on my treadmill with a blood sugar of 50, and everybody's like, "Oh my god." And I'm like, "If you look back 150 years ago, the normal was 50 to 60."
Yeah.
And now they just bumped it up to 100 to 130, and I'm like, they're giving you these lab values that are based on the average of what's out there. Well, look at what's out there,
Yeah. And see,
these
that's
poor
what I wanted to
kids.
pick your. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit, especially about that point. Okay. Once I became type 2 diabetic, and then, like I said, we started running down the gamut. I would discuss it with it because what's the number? What's the right number? One's telling me you're good at 140. No, you got to be down at 60. No, you're over here. No, you're over there. Now you're over here. Blood pressure.
Yeah.
What's the right normal for blood pressure? To me, it's individually, as far as I'm concerned. Take a weightlifter. Okay, go in the gym, put the
Yep.
cuff on him,
Yep.
and let him lift weights. Okay, it's 400 and something over
Yep.
whatever. Okay, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. So it's all about this. Try to explain that to somebody, and they look at you like you got
Yeah.
three heads, and then that's when I back away. Like there again, I'm a hothead. I can get an argument in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
then nowadays I got to back away and say, hey, okay, you live your life, I'll live
Well,
mine.
I think another advantage that I have is being a nurse and being 8 years cardiac nurse. I saw that it was unusual to try to make an elderly person's blood pressure be the 120 over 60. That's stupid.
Exactly.
Anybody knows that your heart beats all day, every day for 70 years. You can't have that blood pressure be falsely dropped down to that low, because then those people stand up and get dizzy and fall down, because your muscle has thickened with time. Because just like your bicep, you sit there and, do a bunch of curls on one side, that bicep's going to be bigger than the other
Right.
you know but I'm just like, they want these cookie cutter numbers because it's what's easier to put it in the computer. They can see 50 patients versus 30 patients if they actually had to do anything, and that's what I told my doc. I'm like, the first time I met her, she probably should have fired me, but anyway, first time I met her, she did, on the computer. And I was in her office. I was sitting in right across from her. And at the end of the visit, I said, "What color are my eyes?" She never even looked at me. She
Wow,
didn't
good.
listen to my heart. She didn't listen to my lungs. And I said, I was raised around old hometown docs. They checked your fingernails. They checked your mucous membranes. They looked in your mouth. They checked your hair. They looked to see, they went, and all those things. They don't do that anymore. And I said, well, any monkey can come in here and put exactly what I'm saying to them in the computer, and the computer spits out a diagnosis. I said, hell, we might as well have, and no offense to janitors, but I said, have the janitor come in here. He's a lot cheaper than you are,
Yeah.
because
I tell
you're
my
going to tell
doctor
him
all the
what to
time.
do.
I tell my
Yeah,
doctor all the time, what are you going to fix for me in 10 minutes? You know,
nothing.
what are you going to do for me in 10 minutes? So now it's to the point now when I go to the doctor, my wife comes in with me. They see the both of us at the same time. We got to shut him up. Okay.
Yeah,
I call him right
yeah,
out. And is it disrespectful? Well, you know what it is? It's disrespectful to me to blow smoke up my behind and tell me something that I
yes,
know is wrong.
yeah.
So the
Well,
whole
and
bit.
I, like I said, when I said I come with receipts, I have came, and my doctor did take them, but I've had numerous studies that I went out. I did a whole thing on my YouTube channel on cholesterol with the carnivore hunters, two brothers, and we linked every single study in there. And because she wanted me to take a statin when I was 50, because my total cholesterol was like 360 something. And I'm like, "I'm not taking it." And I gave her the study, and I'm like, "This study right here was done several decades ago, and it talks about if you took a, cholesterol lowering medicine for eons, didn't eat any of the animal fat, did all the things that the conventional medical industrial complex says, you may get an additional 3 days of life, but you ain't gonna have no brain because you're gonna have Alzheimer's." Yep,
I
yeah,
keep it with
you're gonna
me
have, yep.
every
But,
every.
even
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
there, she was like, "Well, you're not gonna take a statin." And I said, "You write the script, you send it over to the pharmacy, I'll buy it, I'll bring it over here, you take it." I said, "I wouldn't give my ex-husband a statin, and I wouldn't piss on him if he was on fire, so that means something."
My my
Yeah,
my wife's 71. Don't take nothing. They
exactly.
they look. The doctor looks at her and says, it almost. I was waiting for the words to come out. We got to put you on something.
Sure,
Basically,
they'd
we
love to.
want to get the thyroid done, and then they
Oh, yeah.
said, then what was the other thing? Oh, a mammogram. Okay. My wife says,
Mhm.
"Why do you? Are you drunk? No, I
No.
ain't getting that done. That's
Yeah,
ridiculous. I'm 70 years old. It's not going to happen."
yeah,
So
exactly.
it's a shame. Now I don't know if you know. It's a shame we have to live like that. Okay, and be lied to 24/7. No matter what goes on in this world,
Sure.
we are told bogus bullshit, and I'm
Yep.
really tired of it. Uh,
Yeah.
now I don't know if you know Nick Norwitz, Dr. Nick
Yes.
Norwitz. Okay,
Yeah.
and what the other guy's name? I can't think. Feldman, Dave Feldman.
Sure. Yep, they
Okay,
did the study. Mhm.
they did that study, but now what they're doing is now there's a thing they're doing now where you can go get your blood work through them to move away from the conventional way of doing it. And you
Right.
put down what you eat and a whole bit like that,
Sure.
carnivore, keto, and stuff like that,
Right.
and to build a base to start changing things around. And
Good.
I, I think today out here in Las Vegas they have today and tomorrow. I think they have a seminar going on with Ken Berry and all of
Nice.
them there to get
Oh,
this
yeah.
thing moving along and stuff. So I think that's pretty cool that they took the bull by the horn with it.
Yeah, and they came up with the American Diabetic Society to go against American Diabetes Association.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's about time that
Yeah.
stuff starts. The thing that bothers me with that kind of put my file back before everything falls over. The
Yeah.
thing that bothers me the most about it is they reach out to all the other people who are higher up the food chain on YouTube and talk to
Yeah.
them. They need to start talking to people like us.
Well, and I think they need to start talking to, and this is like I've had people go, "Oh, I've only been on carnivore, I've only been on keto or ketovore for 2 weeks." I said, "You're exactly who we need to talk to.
Right.
Tell us what have been some of your struggles because other people who were in the same boat as you or I, they need to see, oh, hey, this guy kind of reminds me of me, or hey, she sounds a lot like, or if you're helping a wife or a husband, um, can kind of get something from you, but that is how we learn. So as a nurse, what I learned in nursing school for one was 90% bullshit. Let's just be honest, it was. But I knew I was fortunate that when I went, I had already been keto for several years. So, I argued a couple things. I had a nutrition class and the lady was talking about K-cows and this and that. And we got the Bunsen burner and we got to heat it up to a blue flame to get it to burn. And I'm like, how the hell do we burn calories? Because I'm only 98.6 degrees. And of course, then that about blew her mind. And this was before the colleges got completely retarded and, do the crap they do to people now, which I would not put up with for 4 seconds. But I think, I think
Calories
we
have
do
nothing
have
to do
more
with diet.
doctors.
I mean, I don't
No,
mean
no,
nothing to do with
no,
diet. It's about
nothing.
heat transfer. That's
Yeah,
basically
yeah,
what it does.
yeah.
All right.
Because I take in 3,000 easily 3,000 calories a day because I eat one meal a day. And sometimes I might fast for 3 days just because I'm like, I'm not really hungry. I'm not going to eat if I'm not hungry. And then when I do eat, I'll make half a pound of ribeye fat as crispy. I mean, it is like, oh my God, it's almost like bacon.
Mhm.
And I will take that and I'll put Redmond's real salt or Baja Gold or any of the good mineral salts on there. And then I do half a pound of ribeye with the fat on it or hamburger, lamb, deer. I'm a deer hunter, so we do that. And I mean, how much cheaper than you can get? My fat is like a dollar. Sometimes it's 99 cents a pound.
See, and see, half the problem is right there is because of the bullshit we're fed as far as what to buy. Okay,
Yeah,
that's a problem because you know what? Oh, I
yeah.
got to eat a ribeye. No, no,
No,
you
you
don't.
don't.
I
You can
buy.
eat hamburger.
Yeah, I buy shoulder, beef shoulder.
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
I cut that
You
up.
cut
I
it up.
do my, and I cook it in a
Yeah.
way, and nothing wrong with a crock pot. You can cook in a crock. I was against crock
Yeah.
pots in the beginning, okay, but now that I'm older, yeah, it gives me a little day off cooking and stuff.
Yeah, not too bad.
But yeah, you can. I mean, there's 90,000 different ways of making it, and that's what I try to do. But no, we were
Yeah.
fed that bull crap in the beginning. It's got to be grass fed. You got to have ribeye. Ribeye is the best way to get it. Laura, I remember back in the day in my restaurant, okay, we had a seafood restaurant, steak and seafood, okay. We would sell ribeyes back then, 1 inch thick and smaller,
Mhm.
because that's back in the day when, let me tell you something, they told you that fat is going to kill you. Stay
Oh,
away
I
from it.
know.
Stay away from it,
Mhm.
okay. So we would sell, it was the cheapest cut of meat back in the day. Now you can't touch it. But you don't need all that. You don't need to spend all that kind of crazy money. I tell
Yeah,
people, buy in bulk, learn how to cut the meat. If you cut it wrong, it's still good. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
and buy it on sale. If you see a sale, and this is another thing that I did, before Christmas, I did a video, I do 'em every Monday, and, I just said, "If you've got family that wanna give you these stupid gifts," and the older I get, the less I want shit sitting around my house to collect dust. I don't want it. Don't send me it. So, I literally am like, "Hey, Omaha Steaks has this special," and, like, my adult children go together and do that, even if it's just the hamburgers that they got there because they have great, hamburgers. I'm like, and if you got family that's, even further away, have them do that or, buy you seeds if you have the ability to grow your own food in your yard, or if 5-gallon buckets, you can grow tomatoes. You can do some onions. You can do, your peppers. There's tons of stuff that you can do So I'm like, have them buy you something like that because I'm like, that's the gift that keeps giving. I don't want the knick-knack sitting back here unless you're going to buy me a gun. Now, if you're going to buy me a gun, I'll take that because I like my gun. You know,
the funny thing is, now we came from New Jersey. Everybody, New Jersey, you're New York. It was the
yeah,
Garden State. Every place around,
yep,
there was farms everywhere. My sister-in-law's family
perfect.
had a
Yeah,
vegetable truck farm. We go deliver to Philadelphia and New York every day.
nice.
Okay,
Hmm.
that's the first time I come across like fennel and they called it fanuc,
Sure.
Italian, but
Then you agree.
they turn around and we moved to North Carolina. I bought 17 acres of ground. Okay,
Yeah,
we started to develop it. All right, like I said, my wife can grow anything. I grew peanuts. Okay, I
yep,
never knew how to do that before. I made a roaster
yeah,
for my grill, roasted
sure.
peanuts, and
Yep,
all that
yep.
kind of stuff.
Spin them.
Now we're in Las Vegas in an apartment. Okay,
Yeah.
and if I open the door right now, move the camera, you'll see a table with
Yeah.
seedlings
It's got,
coming up with basil.
yep,
We got
yep.
peppercorns growing.
Oh,
Grow our
wow.
own
Yeah, good.
peppercorns and stuff. She's
It's
phenomenal. Like I
amazing.
said, $50 bill
That's
don't
good.
work.
Yeah.
But the whole
Yeah.
idea is you make it work for you. Is what I try to
Yes.
say. Now,
Yeah.
I got a question for you now because I seen on your now I gotta let everybody know. Please, I want you to. Oh, not that. I goofed up there. This one here. I want everybody, please go to Laura's channel at Healthy Carnivore. Please check her out. A lot of knowledge, a lot of good stuff she's got there. And this is why I'm doing this right now, Laura's, because I want you to tell some people out there about what your products are and what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had for several years been making my own tooth powder, making my own shampoos, lotions, facial serums, all these things. Because when you eat the way I do, I mean, I had over 100 quarts of tallow that I had rendered and processed so they were shelf stable and they're good for at least 10 years because I don't have any now that are 10 years old because of this. But I had been making products and giving away to family for Christmas and stuff like that, and my patients and things. And a lady said, "Well, I want to buy some psoriasis lotion because she has eczema and psoriasis."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I make it." And she was like, "Well, can I just buy it?" Well, she doesn't live here. And I was like, "Well, yeah." I was like, "I don't know how to do any of this." So somebody that I was working with at the time, she goes, "Just make a website." And I'm like, "Look, I did not grow up with a computer or a smartphone in my hand. You saying that makes me want to crap myself." I mean, I was just yeah, and so she actually helped me get this and it's a Square website, so and they do a lot of the work to it, but you get to build it the way you want and the color schemes and whatever. So then I started making all of my products and started putting them up there. Now, I'm frugal. I really am just cheap, but they say just to call yourself frugal. So I buy, BPA free plastic containers for like the lotions or this one's the tooth powder that I do. Um, and I sell everything. I'm making about 50 cents on every item that I sell, which is
Mhm.
probably not if this was my full-time job, I'd have to bump it up, but I'm a nurse. And so I do this on the side. But I wanted it to be where people who are trying to get healthier by what they eat and what they put on their body or in their hair, I wanted everybody to be able to afford it, whether they're on a fixed income or they're, wealthy. And on my YouTube channel, I will make tooth powder and show you how to do it. Make your own. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I have everything from lip gloss, I do tallow shampoos and body soaps. They have honeybees on them. I know it's hard to see, but deodorant, and it is made with aluminum-free baking soda
Okay.
and tallow. Yep. And I mean, and I'm very much believe, like my shirt says, it says, "Let food be thy medicine." So, and I've
Well,
always believed that. But to me, I may not eat a lot of vegetables, I used to, but I do believe that plants are the first medicines. It's not, they call it alternatives. I'm like, no, it was around for thousands of years. This medical shit is the alternative. But
That's right.
especially like during this season, like elderberry tincture that I make because it's an antiviral. Um, I have oregano oil, which is antibiotic.
That's
Mhm.
my favorite. I drink oregano tea.
Yes. Yes, and yes, so you can do that. I have a facial serum. You do not drink this, you put it on you. And
Okay.
so it's made with like castor oil and with organic olive oil from one country of origin and jojoba oil that's organic. So all of that stuff, dandelion tincture. You guys got dandelions in your yard, don't spray them. You can
Yeah.
pull the roots, you can make a tea out of it. If you've got somebody, I've had patients with congestive heart failure, AFib, and have these legs with edema. And I'm like, I'm going to give you a bottle of this dandelion tincture. You put 3 drops in your tea or your coffee. You do that 2, 3 times a day, and it works. It's better than Lasix ever dreamed of being. Um,
You and my
and
wife would
then
get
all the
along really
different,
well.
yeah,
She
good.
likes all that
But
natural
like,
stuff.
yeah, and so, like, this one's a little bit more yellow because it has turmeric in it, so that is the one that is for, like, the psoriasis and the eczema, and then another crazy thing, and with you being 70 or 71, you said, do you remember hearing your grandparents talk about coal-packed
Yeah.
meats? So, that's
Yep.
something else that I don't sell that, but,
Mhm.
I do have, so I can, like I said, these are canned stewed tomatoes out of my garden, and then, my tallow, I also don't sell it because I use it for my products, but I just feel like when you read what's in your healthcare, what they call healthcare products, these things, just like the red dye, known carcinogens, and they've known it, and only once RFK looked like he was possibly gonna come in and clean house, did they're like, "Oh, we're gonna get rid of red dye 3." They got rid of red dye 3 34 years ago in cosmetics
Yep.
because it caused cancer. So if it causes cancer, putting it on here, what do you think happens when you eat it?
Inside.
Yeah.
Sure.
So and any of these things that I have that I sell on my website, anybody can make them. So I always have my ingredients. I almost always have a video on my YouTube channel where they can just watch and do it if they want to do it themselves. I'm totally down with that. I just want as many people to get as healthy as possible and put corrupt medical and insurance companies out of business.
Boy, me and you are
That's
on the
it.
same page. I mean, like you wouldn't believe. And when I first seen you on, I was scrolling through one night, and you were on with a couple. I can't remember who they were. I think it was somebody from Ohio, um, Missing
Oh,
Ohio.
Homesick Buckeye.
Yeah, Homesick
Homesick
Buckeyes. It's
Buckeye,
the first
Russ.
time I seen you on there, and I immediately went to your page, and I said, "Holy crap!" Okay,
Yeah.
she sounds like me.
Yes.
But with a better background. I mean, as far as
Yeah.
what your profession is and stuff like that. But the same token, though, I said she even speaks the same language I do. As far as I
Yeah.
hate when people now coming from the restaurant business, I hate when people try to alter something or make something that it's not.
It's
Drives
not.
me insane. Okay,
Yes.
almond flour is bullcrap. It's
It's
junk.
oxalate powder.
My cardiologist told me you can have almonds, but maybe 20, a man's
Yeah.
handful. He said anything over that's toxic. These people are using cups and cups and cups of this stuff. I said,
Yeah.
no, come on. It's talk about hurting your stomach. I mean, holy crap. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's where people me some of my keto buddies parted ways, I guess. And I don't give a damn
Yeah.
one way or the other.
Well, I think what a lot of that comes down to is we, again, and it's not just in America, but everything has been geared around the celebration of food. It's not the celebration of families anymore. It's not the celebration of a birthday or a wedding or a funeral. It's what are we making? What are we eating? What are we doing? And we've gotten away from that. And so kind of like when I was keto, um, I could make you a cheesecake that you couldn't tell was not the real deal,
Hmm.
but it still made me have those cravings.
Bingo.
So I wasn't helping, right? I wasn't helping myself. The whole trick was get rid of that super sweet sensation because of how it works in the brain. So another real quick story I want to say
Sure.
is I
No
took
problem.
care of a gentleman who worked at a factory in Keokuk, Iowa. I think it's called Roquette. It's owned by the French. And of course, none of the money stays in the United States. Big surprise. But anyway,
Yeah.
not that I'm bitter about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they take corn and they process it down. So they like cornstarch, corn syrups, blah, 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 all the things. So where I grew up in a town right across from the tracks. So, I was on the good side of town. And they always had these black tanker, train cars, and they'd have this black goo that'd come over the side of them. And I used to jump on and off of some of the trains because they were going slow, and I was stupid and a kid, and you're invincible. And I can remember getting it on me. Well, I thought it was oil, so I was scared to death. I went home and washed it off. Well, I was taking care of this gentleman who was 96 at the time, and I said, I always want to know my patient's history. And I'm like, where'd you used to work? What'd you do? And he said, I worked at Roquette. And I said, oh, and we got on. I always get into nutrition of what's good food, real food, with every single client, every client. And we got on that talk. And he said, do you know where corn syrup came from? And I was like, not how it got into our society. And I said, not really. And he said, it actually started in Little Keokuk, Iowa, which is a blip on the map of Iowa. I mean,
No.
it's like the lowest income part of the entire state out of 99 counties. So, and I said, oh, yeah, how'd that happen? And he says, well, you talked about having those rail cars. He goes, that wasn't oil. He goes, that was
It's corn
corn
syrup.
syrup, but it was before they purify it. And so it was almost more like look like molasses. And I said, Jesus, you guys had a ton of that. And I said, why? And he says, because the town I lived in, we had a great big landfill. And so they had to ship it up there, and they had to pay a toxic landfill to dump those because they were considered toxic. And I said, then how the hell did it end up in every loaf of bread? Mustard, um, horseradish has it in there now. And I'm like, why is it in everything? And he said, we had a gentleman who always ran the auger down into the hole that's up on top of that. And he fell in one day when he was first starting to load it. And they got him up out of there real quick. And he said he was on like crack, like cocaine. He was like, he was bing, 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 bing. He said, I'm not kidding you. That next day, we had food chemists from every country, Germany, I mean, everywhere in there. He said, we took 100 children out of this surrounding area, brought them here, brought teachers to teach them, had a nurse on site, and then the scientists were there with the little like EEGs,
Mm-hmm.
and they studied food. Coca-Cola brothers were there, Nabisco was there, Quaker was there, and Post. And they studied these kids and put this corn syrup because it was so much cheaper than plain
Sugar.
sugar cane,
Yep.
right? And he said as soon as they would put it in there, if it turned on that pleasure center, then they knew they hit the number. And he kind of got teary-eyed, and I said, what? And he said, here I am, 96 years old, because I refused to ever eat anything that had that in it. And he's, I'll bet not one of those children is still alive.
Yeah.
And I was like, or they're diabetic.
That's the sad part of it. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
and now the older I'm getting, all right, I turn around and I don't know. I'm speaking my mind a little bit more about it, and especially to the authorities who are,
Yeah.
you know, I
Not authorities.
yeah, I mean, yeah, bullshit
Yeah.
artists is what they
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
and
Drug
going to
dealers,
the doctor every 90 days and doing my blood work every 90 days. I stopped.
which is stupid.
I
Yeah.
stopped. I said, "You're
Yeah.
testing me." I said, "There again, you're testing oil and water." I said, "It doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense." You know what I mean? So I said, "The way I eat is the way I eat." I said, if let me tell you something. I said if I turned around and said I was a vegetarian, I eat one pea a day for 7 days, and that was my diet. Okay, how
Mhm,
are you going to test me? You're just not doing it the right way, and it's all about the money.
mhm.
So, you
It
back
is.
you just back away from the whole thing. And I have another channel. Okay, here's where the conflict comes in with me also. So, being a retired chef, I have all my old recipes from the restaurant. Okay,
Sure,
I make homemade pasta, I make breads, I make homemade pizza and stuff like
sure.
that. But they don't see me eat it. So
Yeah.
I was in a collaboration with hot dogs, American, some whatever it was. Okay, so I made
Mhm.
what they call from New Jersey. They would call rippers. They would take hot dogs and deep fry them until the skin would rip on it. Put it on a bun, onions, and whatever. So from the
Right.
camera, I take it from the camera and I take it up like I'm going to eat it, where you don't see me. I put it over my shoulder. My wife takes a bite of it,
Oh, there you go.
and then I put it back on the plate again. That was good.
Yeah.
And if I make pasta, I'll make one plate, and she has it and stuff like that. So I'm true to my guns. I mean, I stick to my guns with it as far as what I'm doing. Do I fall off? Yeah, I do. And that is the worst
Yeah.
thing. That is the worst thing in the world because I know better.
Well, it's a good thing for people to experiment with that and see how, I this is what I tell people. I know a lot of people say just do keto or carnivore for 30 days, and I'm like, do it for 90. Get it to where your body has really cleaned out quite a bit, and then when you go off the rails, you're going to have some side effects, and it's going to be like, oh, it's kind of like the little kid that touches the stove and it's hot. They're probably going to do it more than once, but a couple times of that, and they're going to be like, I don't think I want to do that anymore. It's
Exactly.
kind of like that. So I never come down, like, I don't know if you know who Carnivore Kip is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So he's had lots of struggles. I still think he's absolutely great, and I think he needs to be out there telling his story because he is more like a lot of people really are. They fall off a lot and then get back on. Yeah, go
Not
ahead.
to bash anybody, but here's where I got into it. I like Kip. As a matter of fact, I used to every Wednesday back a couple years ago. Every Wednesday, I would have me and Keto Mike would come on, and we would
Okay.
do these, in the afternoon, do a live, whatever. I
Right.
stepped away from that and brought another guy up on it and let them do their thing. And but Kip was on, and I was out of town, so I missed having him up there. Straight shooter, good guy. Feel bad for him because he does have some issues as far as getting away
Yes.
from it. But the other guy, I can't think what his name is, but he a couple years now, and he's up over a couple 100,000 subscribers, and he bashed
I
him.
know.
He
I know who it is.
absolutely bashed him. Okay,
I know.
see that I don't play that stuff. So long story short, I
Me
go
neither.
on. I went
Yeah.
on and I said to him, "Who in the hell do you think you are?" Okay.
Yeah.
You connected with some of the right people. Okay. Brought
Yep.
your channel up. Okay. And I don't believe you. Swear to God, I don't believe you. Okay.
I I agree.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
But there again, nobody gets to police you but you.
right.
Yeah, so keto, I will never ever bash somebody. There is somebody who is, I mean, this lady has cookbooks. She's got all kinds of stuff, and I know that she does Ozempic,
Uh,
but everybody doesn't know that. And but I don't go out and bash her
mhm,
on here because that's her choice. I mean, if
exactly.
that's what she wants to do, I choose for myself. I choose to do it the right way. I live what I say, and I want people to see that you can do it without
Right.
those things.
Yep.
I want to keep my bones and my muscles. I don't want to have, because that's what I've seen is the bone loss, the muscle loss. And it's like, great, you lost 30 pounds. How much of it was heart muscle?
Yeah.
And I'm a nurse. I've taken care of patients for years that were diabetics taking that medication. And I know what it does to the majority of them. And yes, they are hyperdosed. It is too high of a dose.
Hmm.
And I think there are some instances where the microdosing is probably a little better, but it's the same. This is how I think of any hormone, peptide that you put in your body. If it's one that your body already produces, it's no different than insulin. You put insulin in, your pancreas goes, hey, I don't got to do it. I can take a vacation. That's why diabetics start with 2 units of insulin. And by the time they finally get to the age where the doc's like, oh, I've made all the money I can off of you. I mean, I've had patients at 180 units of insulin a
Wow.
day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because their pancreas finally was like, well, I don't need to do anything. So why would I? Well, it's the same with everything else in the body. If you take these things in for an extended period of time, I just think that there's a lot of issues that can come from it. But I do think that I have seen some doctors who are knowledgeable that are very careful and do short-term microdosing, stuff like that, where it seems like the evidence looks like it's okay for some of them. But there again, for myself, I like my heart muscle. It's in very good shape now. And I like the muscle that I have because we get sarcopenia. You start getting sarcopenia in your
Mhm.
50s for a female, 60 for men. I need to keep what muscle I have and continue to build it. I don't want something that's going to take it down,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I choose.
Do you have a few more minutes? Because you just brought up something
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
need to get off my chest.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I go to my doctor, doing really well. All right, dropped a bunch of weight. At that time, I think it was like 30 some pounds. Okay, but my blood sugar was still a little high. All right, so he said, "I'm concerned with you about that. Your blood sugar still running a little high. There's a new drug out called Trulicity." He said, "Being that you refuse to take anything else, I stopped taking metformin. I stopped taking all that. Okay,
Yeah.
and then." He puts me on this Trulicity. I agreed to it because I sort of compromised with him. Did it for almost a year because it was free.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Eli Lilly put me on a plan where I didn't have to pay for it. Other than that, it would have been
Yeah.
$1,500 a month.
Hmm.
Not to sound gross or anything. Started taking after 6 months. I started feeling really, really uh, lethargic, tired. Didn't want to do
Hmm.
anything. Wasn't hungry.
Hmm.
Couldn't go to the bathroom for
Yep.
weeks.
Gastroparesis.
So I go back to him and I said, "Hey, listen, we're done with this. I can't take this no more. Okay. Well, let's
Yeah.
up the dose on it." I said, "Well, aren't you listening to
Okay.
me? Aren't you listening to me?" So
Wow.
so
Wow.
Lord, this is when I made the transformation over and I dug deeper into it. These were bad side effects that I had. Okay.
Sure were.
The other
Yeah.
doctor I went to, he said, "No, stop that. Don't
Stop it.
do that. Don't take that stuff."
Yeah.
He said, "What's your
Yep.
insulin?" I don't know. They never checked me my insulin. Never did. Okay. Let's do it. Let's do a markup on it. And this guy was full of crap too. They do they do my insulin and they say, "Oh, you're 17, you're good." It's
No,
not
you're not.
according to the research I did. I said if I'm above
Mm.
6, I'm not in good shape.
Exactly.
He said, "Oh, no, 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 no. You're
Mm.
gone. You're done."
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
So
done.
so now
You're fired.
I'm going to a PA that I'm seeing in this big group conglomerate that I think they're out of Utah.
Yeah.
She's pretty good with me as far as she lets me speak my piece, but in the same token, she wants my wife in there with me because we
Sure.
argue a little bit. But she said
Yeah.
there could be a problem with you down the road from taking that. And I said, "What kind of problem?" She says, in your intestine problem."
Yep.
I said, "Oh, thank you. I need that." So now she's thinking that my blood sugar runs a little high. I go like 140 and above, up to 200, sometimes 220.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
She said that could be something going on because of that Trulicity that you took.
Mm. Yes, because of the gastroparesis. So, what that do you know what gastroparesis is?
No.
Okay. Diabetics can tend to get gastroparesis anyway. So, when you become super insulin resistant, your stomach quits working. And so that food sits in there and basically just putrefies. Okay. So you're not hungry because nothing's passing. So it's still full in there. Same with the small intestine, the first part of the small intestine, same thing. It will kind of go, well, that's how these GLP-1s work, is by turning that GLP-1, it's an agonist. And that is your hunger satiety. Like, I'm full. So it if you could do that, that teaches the stomach and the small intestine, like, hey, we don't need, we're good. Yeah, we're not hungry.
Yeah.
But when you're not getting food and nutrients down in there, you're not getting those enzymatic actions to break those down and put them out to your system. So you that's why you were like, because you weren't getting any of the vitamins, minerals, nutrients, any of that stuff from those foods. I disagree that it's something that you may have long-term issues with, because I've seen a few that did those medications for like 2 years, that they did have to have a gastric bypass because the bottom of their stomach was dead and the top portion of their small intestine. Other people, and I had a lady I worked with that had this happen. Hers didn't come back. She was only on it about 6 months. She literally started taking berberine, which is a Chinese herb,
Mhm. It's like
included
metformin,
fasting.
right?
Yes, they're doing that, and lecithin, which is a fat emulsifier, and K2D3. And I said, do interval timed eatings, like try to eat once or twice a day. Now she still eats regular food, but she's recently like, yeah, I'm starting to get belly sounds now when I'm hungry, where that was just nothing. She had
Nothing.
none.
Yeah. I from I guess from early 2000s, I guess I jumped into ACV.
Yeah,
I would get heartburn
good
real
stuff.
bad, and I
Yep,
would take some ACV. Take it. Well,
I love
now
it.
I made a batch of fire cider. I never
Fire
heard of
cider.
fire cider. Never heard of it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I made a batch of that, and I tell you what, I come across this woman and her mom. They make tinctures. That's why I was interested with your products and stuff like that. And I think it's called uh, Honeystead is their
Okay.
place. They make all these different stuff. Well, they made the fireside, and I jumped on it.
Yeah,
So but then when they take it, they do this woo woo dance. They call it,
yeah,
woo like
yeah,
this.
yeah.
So I made it, did the 30 days, and I got to tell you something. All right, uh, game changer. Watch them about what you tease and you said with the oregano and stuff like that. Oregano seems to be
Yep.
my favorite of all the herbs. I mean, it just one of the best. But I
Sure.
use Mexican oregano because it has a little bit more of a punch to it, and
It
it tastes a
does.
little bit better. So
Yeah,
now we're doing teas. I make a fennel tea. I do oregano, basil.
yeah.
I even do cloves, cinnamon, and star anise.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll sip that at night. And I got to tell you something. I mean, all the aches and pains go away. Uh,
yeah.
we're out here right now in Las Vegas is one of the high in the country, one of the high flu uh, I guess going around. They said it's like
Sure.
number one or number two, in the country.
Yeah.
Now with
You
that
mean
fire
the flu
cider,
shot didn't stop it?
nah, I don't get that crap.
I just can't believe it.
Last time I had a flu shot, I got sick as a dog. I was sick for 3 weeks.
Well, that's
So
what I'm saying. I'm like, everybody in my area, and I don't give any vaccines. I work for a health department, and when they hired me, they said, "Is there anything that is an absolute?" And I said, "I won't ever take it, and I won't ever give it, and I won't give this one, and I won't give that one ever. So
yeah,
if you ask me, don't hire me."
natural is my way, even with your
Uh,
food. Okay, that's why I
yes.
said. I mean, is clean as we eat, and is much much hype about it. Okay, that's bad for you. You're going to die. You're going to clean. Please stop. Everybody, just
Yeah.
please wake, step.
And that's
I always
okay.
say, I tell my kids, step out of the circle and watch what's going on. Then make
Yeah.
your judgment call from there. Don't
Yeah.
from
And
inside the fight.
and and the other thing is all of us came from being sugar addicted, food addicted, da da da. I felt like shit back then. I feel absolutely amazing. I do sprinting, I do cardio, I do kickboxing, I do weightlifting. I mean, I am living my best life. And if that means that, oh, you might die a little bit younger than you would have, okay. I've already outlived my dad by almost 13 years. I,
Yeah.
okay. I'm willing to do that and feel great. I'd rather have quality than quantity any day.
I get people ask me, what kind of hair dye do you use? I said, butter.
You know, yep.
Okay. Butter, olive oil, and I got some gray in
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean?
Not very
But no,
much.
no. I mean,
Pretty good.
me and my wife both feel really good, and that's the
Yeah.
sad part that people don't understand. It's not about losing weight. I could care less if I
No.
drop 4 pounds. I want to feel
Yes.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to be able to
Yeah.
get up from my chair without sounding like I'm yodeling, like Ricola. Oh, trying
Yeah.
to get up.
Yeah.
That's where I
Snap,
want to
crackle,
be.
pop.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know, Laura. I appreciate this so much. You don't know how much this means to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Great.
I like to do it again whenever you have the time. Please, everybody, if you would make sure that you go to Laura's channel, hit that like, subscribe, and join her
Oh.
and check out some
And
of her products. And
yeah, if they're interested in my products, my website is in right there. I have it. It's Russell Brands with a Z
okay,
dot com. Yeah,
very
because
good.
my last name is Russell. So it's just a play on words because I'm not Russell Brand.
Very, very good. Well, there again, like I said, very knowledgeable. I clicked with you right from the start, and I was ecstatic that you said that you would come on. And
Yeah,
I think we need more voices out there that have sense, that
we're
make
getting
sense
there.
about what's going on, and
Yeah.
conspiracy theories and stuff. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I got to tell you something. I might start becoming one because of all the nonsense that they're
I
talking about.
and I'm gonna be an admitted conspiracy theorist, and I have been since I was a little kid. But unfortunately, I am a diary person. You can go back and look at my diaries, and every one of the things that they called me a conspiracy theorist for, it's not a conspiracy. It was really true. And it's like, even as a little kid, I just had this, I had a built in bullshit detector, I called it. And thank God it got
Yeah.
me. It's the only reason I survived because I'm a type A.
My family. I'm the youngest out of five, so there's just me and my one older brother who's left. He's 80. God, I think he's 83, 84 years old, and he totally, totally disagrees with what I do. You're gonna die.
It's okay.
They're gonna, you're killing yourself with butter and all this
Right.
stuff like that. Okay, and he's got now, he's got all that lymphoma. He's got all that stuff going
Oh,
on in his
that's
life.
horrible.
But you can't talk to him. I mean, he's just probably as hard headed as I am when it comes to that kind
Yep.
of stuff.
Which is okay.
But here I am. I mean, am I going to die? Yeah, absolutely, I'm going to die. And
Every one of us is.
yeah, I might choke on a rib or something like that. Who knows? Or
Hell, I could get shot by somebody.
I'll get hit by a LabCorp truck or something.
Nah,
with,
that could happen to me for sure.
so, but it's something we got to keep moving about, talking about, and I think we need to
Yeah,
do more of this right here to get the word out a little bit more. So, all right,
I
everybody,
agree.
listen, I'm gonna pull the plug on this one. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, check out Laura's channel, and we'll see you next Monday. Thank you, everybody.